Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Hellfire by Midi. This is the brand new full-length album of Midi, almost 1 year after the release of their previous album Cavalcade, which came much earlier than what I would expect. It's actually kinda impressive how much of a short gap there is between those two albums, because I would say that Cavalcade was a masterful release, at least when it comes to performances. It was mind-blowing in some aspects with some of the structures they would create, the musicianship. There were certainly many interesting elements about their previous album, which felt much better than their debut in my opinion, which didn't really do that much for me, but I found Cavalcade to be a pretty interesting release. Not necessarily one that I would consider spectacular or mind-blowing, but there were certainly aspects that kept my interest and I found the album to be pretty intriguing in many aspects. So what we have with Hellfire over here is basically more of the same. If you have heard Cavalcade, you're basically gonna get some similar aspects when it comes to their sound and this kind of new direction that they took with a more jazzy sound and going more into Avant-Prog elements. It ties nicely elements that you would find in like 70s prog, but it manages to be even more chaotic and even more brutal and noisy, and also giving a more modern flair with the production and some other elements with instrumentation, making the experience somewhat more refreshing as well. The interesting thing with Hellfire is that it manages to be an even much more chaotic and much more brutal and aggressive release in comparison to Cavalcade, which I find it to be quite impressive because Cavalcade really set the bar really high, but what we have over here is an album that is quite all over the place with some of the structures that you see in some of the tracks over here. Also, you have many moments in between songs where you have some more calm and chill and soothing moments, which is something that we saw with the previous release, but I believe that in the case of Hellfire, those transitions are executed in a much more smooth and better way. I really liked how the tracks transitioned one from each other. It felt so seamless and smooth, and I believe that it's one of the greatest aspects about this album. I like how it's basically just the two sides and you can just sit here and perceive it as one really lengthy and really chaotic song that goes places. It's also really nice how we see this change of mood in between songs. In the same song you're gonna have some really explosive and really dynamic moments and then other parts where it's just so chill and calm and soothing, and even though it is messy, it's executed nicely, and I believe that the results are pretty solid over here in my opinion. Though I would say that in terms of ideas, this album didn't really captivate me as much in comparison to the previous release. I mean, even in terms of like the previous album Cavalcade, the one track that really blew me away was John L. Other than that, I believe that the album was pretty decent for the most part, but John L was the one track that for me felt spectacular. It was like such an amazing moment for me, and I don't really believe that we get something that comes really close to this with this album. I mean, we do get some moments that manage to be even more chaotic and even more aggressive, and I appreciate some of those elements as they truly come close to what John L did as a song, which was definitely the most dynamic moment in the previous album. However, I wouldn't really say that the ideas were that much there in terms of being captivating. I would say that the closest this album comes to this direction, which I really enjoyed, was with the track The Race is About to Begin. The very first half of this song is excellent. I believe that it contains some of the greatest ideas Midi have ever written. It is a really powerful, really dynamic song, and it's also just so fast. Even in terms of the vocals, I was actually kinda impressed how rapid fire some of those vocals were with the delivery. But once again, when it comes to vocals, for me, it's one of the aspects that I haven't really managed to get that much into them. The vocals are not really my style. I get it that it's of an acquired taste, and I believe that in this case in particular, it's interesting how they sound more over the top than ever before. There is this really theatrical feel, especially with this album, like when you have the intro Hellfire, the vocals that would mostly go into those spoken word segments felt like the singer was the announcer of like a really weird and atmospheric spectacle. The whole way the instrumentation was building up gave me the impression that you're getting into this massive over the top and chaotic circus, because it kinda has this feel, and the overall sound, for the most part when it comes to the more energetic moments, is quite festive, especially with tracks like Sugar 2 and also with the track It Man It, which feels like you're in a fiesta. It has this sound that is reminiscent of like Mexican traditional music, and I believe that it's a kinda neat approach. So I really dig this more theatrical and performative approach in this album, even though it kinda gets over the top at times to the point where it's not really that much of my style and really enjoying it as much as an experience, especially when it comes to some of the vocal parts. In terms of some highlights, I would say that The Race is About to Begin was one of the best moments over here. I really enjoyed the track Welcome to Hell as well. I believe that it has some of its more interesting aspects when it comes to the more energetic moments in the song. The track still felt kinda long and slow paced in my opinion. I found this track to be somewhat boring and not bringing some of their best elements. I kinda dig the direction that they took with a really short halftime, with those insane and noisy radio transmissions, and how this track transitions to This Race is About to Begin. The defense was a short moment that in my opinion could have executed a bit better. It takes a while to reach a certain point, and I believe that in terms of the more soothing and calm moments over here, it was not one of my favorites, even though I like how it builds up and it gets kinda more energetic and dynamic towards the end, but I don't really believe that there is that much to this particular song. But I like how the album ends with 27 questions being definitely one of the most interesting moments over here. Again, after the first half we get into some pretty soothing and calm moments, but I like how there are two parts where this track gets extremely explosive and it gets really loud and dynamic, and also offering some of its greatest aspects when it comes to the instrumentation. So I really dig those particular parts. And with that being said, I find this to be another pretty interesting release in this direction of Black Midi, going into this sort of jazz rock direction with elements of avant-garde and prog music. It has many similarities with her previous project, even though I believe Hellfire is an improvement in certain aspects. However, I wouldn't really say that the ideas over here were necessarily the most compelling. Still, this is an obvious strong recommendation for those who liked last year's Cavalcade. I'm gonna give Hellfire a 7- out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why? And what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.